We can see, hear, and move about as well as experience other sensations familiar to us. But do our capabilities end there? Could it be that somebody hijacked our most important capability for his own ends, and then forbid any discussion of it? As a result, there is something out there that has forever altered human history and culture, something we know nothing about. What are they keeping from us? Who has built an empire by depriving us of the best that life has to offer? Who stunted human development, and who has something to gain from that? What's hidden inside each and every one of us, and what does it hold for the future? This is a case where a chain of events unexpectedly led from one isolated event to the unriddling of the greatest mysteries in human history.
I loved fairy tales as a child, and so it's not surprised that I've devoted my whole life since childhood to studying the phase.
The phase is an umbrella term that encompasses all hybrid states in which the brain's centers of consciousness are active during rapid eye movement, or REM sleep, which is when people dream. In terms of sensation, the phase is like an out-of-body experience or becoming conscious while dreaming. Meanwhile, sensations can be more intense than physical ones, and you can't feel your real body on your bed. Michael Raduga began intensely studying the phase phenomenon at age 16. In 2007, he opened the OOBE Research Center in order to study the phase and conduct mass experiments with groups of people.
With the experience I gained, I suddenly began to notice odd coincidences. For example, the phase is practiced when falling asleep or awakening.
Nearly all close encounters of the third kind with extraterrestrial civilizations and alien abductions take place at those very times, and the very same sensations are described.
These coincidences are strange, but who would have believed me that something was up? To get to the bottom of it, we decided to undertake a couple of mad scientist experiments. And that was the start of an incredible story.
On October 7, 2011 in Los Angeles, the OOBE Research Center brought together volunteers to artificially reproduce close encounters of the third kind, that is, alien abduction.
We simply took a group of people, told them how to enter the phase, and asked them to find aliens in it.
As a result of the experiment, 7 out of 20 volunteers were able to come into personal or visual contact with extraterrestrials. Experiment participant Alexander N.
I woke up and made an attempt to enter the phase, and it worked. I got up from my body in my own room. Not wanting to waste any more time, I tried to find aliens. 3 of them materialized right before my eyes. They seemed like creatures from the movie The Thing.
Experiment participant Craig P.
Upon awakening, I decided to separate from my body in the first 5 seconds. I found myself in a forest clearing. There was a flying saucer in the clearing. 2 aliens were near the flying saucer. The next thing I remember was lying on the grass near the flying saucer, and that there were people that looked like children in a circle around me.
The question was then, if you can see aliens on cue, are you seeing real aliens from outer space, or are you seeing something else?
Typical alien abduction stories look a lot different when seen in the light of this experiment, and make a lot more sense. It's the same pattern everywhere.
All these alien abduction stories are nothing other than narratives of spontaneous phase experiences.
The goal of the experiment was to demonstrate that extraterrestrial civilizations aren't behind alien abduction stories, but rather the hidden abilities of the quote-unquote abductees are. And so millions of people who didn't understand their own incredible abilities came to believe in extraterrestrial intelligence. The phase has thus imperceptibly but deeply affected not only our take on extraterrestrial interest in our planet, but also our entire culture, An enormous number of popular films and books are devoted to stories of abduction by aliens or close contact with them.
This is a flying saucer.
According to research, all of this would have been impossible were it not for the phase. And yet, nobody knows about the phase itself. Not content to rest on its laurels, the OOBE Research Center reconvened volunteers in Los Angeles for a no less ambitious experiment on November 11, 2011. As it turns out, nearly all scriptural encounters with God and angels take place at the moment of falling asleep or awakening from ordinary sleep. The Bible directly states that that's when God comes if you fail to hear Him during your daily life.
We gave volunteers an incredible task: artificially reproduce a biblical miracle.
Out of many Bible stories involving the moment of falling asleep or awakening, a specific passage was chosen: the prophet Elijah's version of an angel in chapter 19 of the first book of Kings.
And as he lay and slept under a juniper tree, behold, then an angel touched him, and said unto him, Arise and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was a cake baking on the coals, and a cruse of water at his head. And he did eat, and drank, and laid him down again.
And so, what happened? Incredibly, the experiment resulted in 24 of 30 volunteers entering the phase, while 16 of them artificially reproduced the biblical miracle. Experiment participant, Debbie H.
When I woke, the vibrations were very strong, and I know my breathing got heavier and deeper. I tried levitation, and I got flashes of being out of my body. I thought, this is it, and immediately went to look for the angel. In the corner of my bedroom, it definitely felt like it was there. I asked the angel for any information, and it said it was Gabriel. I then went to look for food, found an apple in the kitchen, and took a bite.
Experiment participant, Anna A.
I awoke, immediately got up from my body. Then I began feverishly recalling what I had to do next. That's when the figure of an angel in a white robe appeared, saying, Have some pastries. The taste of the pastries turned out to be way more realistic than in real life.
The phase often occurs spontaneously, which is why there is nothing surprising about the fact that the same also occurred with biblical figures.
Is the phase not at the root of other unusual stories in the Bible, and even encounters with God? Nearly all of them take place at night when the protagonist is awakened or falling asleep. If you read the Bible carefully, it turns out that it's literally chock full of such phenomena.
Want to read about the phase? Open the Bible. The same can be said not only for alien abduction stories, but many other phenomena as well.
Indeed, in nearly all cases of encounters with the supernatural, people are either in a relaxed state, falling asleep, or waking up.
If you're lying down or sitting back when something supernatural happens to you, then you've simply slipped into the phase.
It turns out that the phase is omnipresent throughout our history. It has had an enormous influence on our entire culture and religious beliefs.
Think how much the Bible has affected our history and day-to-day lives. The Bible would hardly have come into existence if it were not for the phase. And we are not only talking about Christianity.
The facts show that the phase was taken advantage of no less by every other religion, including Islam, Judaism, and Buddhism. Where would all of these miracles have come from if not the phase? But what does the common man know about the phase? Although the phase has asserted itself in our lives since time immemorial, someone decided to help themselves to its fruits and send it on a completely different course to further their own interests.
It's just wrong. We are being duped and led away from the truth. And as a result, we are not developing this amazing inborn ability. We've come to believe in miracles from without, even though we are hardwired for them.
But who benefits? Why has humanity been so completely cut off from the phase? Many historians hold that religions were founded and propped up in order to serve the interests of rulers by controlling the population. Considered from that perspective, elites have reason to fear the phase, as learning it dispels many illusions.
Once you realize this and are able to do it, you look at the consumerism being pushed in the modern world in a completely different way.
Who needs Superman these days? Man has been programmed for an unconscious existence, working his entire life from sunup to sundown to produce goods no one needs, just so that he can spend the money he earns on buying those very same useless items. Modern society depends on this endless rat race, so much that it would immediately collapse if people merely woke up to what they spend most of their lives doing.
Thanks to its unique practical applications, the phase can make people happy, independent and self-sufficient. Who could be against that?
As it turns out, governments worldwide have set out to never allow the practice of the phase to become widespread, no matter what the cost. They're much more comfortable using it to control people through religion or supernatural phenomena. Few see the truth behind the subterfuge.
They've kept us down for a long while. They didn't let people learn anything about the phase, or give them any way to study it. However, times are changing. The time has come for a real revolution in our understanding of who we are. When you talk about the phase, a lot of people consider it to be nonsense, something way out there, or simply something impossible. However, the next studies brought totally unexpected results.
The phase arises when centers of consciousness are activated during REM sleep. This results in a whole cluster of phenomena where a person is fully conscious of what is going on, but does not feel his physical body. Michael Raduga's experiments in California demonstrated that the phase explains many religious miracles and alien abductions, as well as most supernatural phenomena. Incredibly, that's just the beginning.
The most intense form of the phase is called out-of-body travel.
In terms of sensation, people perceive out-of-body experiences as an exit of the soul from the body. However, no one has ever proven this to actually be the case. According to official statistics, 1 in every 5 people alive today has encountered the sensation of leaving the body.
That's 1.5 billion people.
To put those numbers to the test, we interviewed regular passers-by in the street. Had they had at least one out-of-body experience?
Not really.
Oh no, I haven't felt that experience.
I don't think I felt anything like that. That sounds kind of weird.
I woke up and I tried to stand up, but I couldn't stand up, but it feels like something's pulling you back. And then I got really scared because that's scary. You're trying to get up, but you can't.
When it happened, I felt like, you know, I flew off my body and, like a soul, like a ghost. And I actually saw myself sleeping on the couch.
It felt like I was afloat. And then I had to touch my forehead to know that I'm awake. It's kind of weird.
As it turns out, the supposedly rare phenomenon of out-of-body travel is actually quite widespread.
However, the most well-known form of the phase is lucid dreaming. This is a common phenomenon where a person suddenly realizes that he is in the dream world and not in reality.
It often occurs when experiencing nightmares while asleep. Even according to the most conservative estimates, lucid dreaming has been experienced by no less than 60% of the Earth's population.
Inside my dream, I saw a lot of toys around me, and next time I start feeling that I woke up. So, and I remember this feeling that I tried to grab all these toys close to me, just try to take them with me to my real life.
When I was a child, I had just a regular kind of crazy dream, nothing makes sense, but for some reason I realized nothing made sense, and that allowed me to realize I was dreaming, and for it to become a lucid dream.
It happened like a few times, probably around like 5 times, what I remember. And yeah, it was actually a big fun. Like it was a fun actually when you woke up and suddenly you can just realizing that you're sleeping and you can do whatever you want.
In the end, our survey fully confirms the statistics. The phase in the form of lucid dreaming is indeed a widespread phenomenon.
Another symptom of the phase is sleep paralysis, which is when you are falling asleep or waking up and suddenly realize that you can't move your physical body.
Sleep paralysis is a phenomenon well known to humanity. It is alluded to in the Bible, as well as the folklore of every culture in the world. Moreover, it's a typical accompaniment to many supernatural phenomena, including alien abduction. Sleep paralysis is a consequence of REM sleep. That's why it's a natural state, and one that everyone spends several hours in every night while asleep. Sleep paralysis is necessary to keep the physical body from moving while dreaming. According to statistics, no less than 30% of the population has encountered sleep paralysis at least once in their lives.
Like you're paralyzed? Yeah, sometimes I feel like that. Like I want to try to move, but I can't. Yeah, I feel that.
When you come back from your dream and come back into your body, you feel like you can move.
Like it was crazy. I tried to move, but I couldn't move. I didn't know if I was dreaming or if I was awake, but that was not a good feeling.
As the survey demonstrated, sleep paralysis as a type of phase is actually quite frequently encountered.
And let's not forget that false awakenings, which are extremely common, are also a form of the phase.
Actually, unrecognized false awakenings account for most supernatural phenomena. Although it seems to you that you've woken up, you're actually still in the phase, which can lead to anything happening. According to Michael Raduga's estimates, no less than 90% of the world's population has experienced them, and that's 6.3 billion people.
Strange to wake up and find that you are not where you thought you were.
Before going to school, I thought I was taking a bath already, but in my dream, in the reality, I was just asleep.
Yeah, I had experience like that where I would wake up inside of a dream, and then I would wake up from that, because I guess when I woke up from the dream, I was still dreaming, so after that, I woke up, and it was like, so basically I had like 2 wake-up experiences.
You might simply turn to your side upon awakening and go back to sleep, all without suspecting that you hadn't actually moved a muscle.
Among esoterics, the phase is also known by the term astral projection.
Upon encountering the phase, people with mystical views concluded that they'd entered a parallel world called the astral plane. However, the sensations they describe are consistent with typical phase experiences. Meanwhile, despite being known under many names, the phase is typical of most mystical and religious movements. It is practically always considered to be the pinnacle of spiritual development and an attainment of the highest level.
The phase actually comes naturally to everybody. It's everywhere in our lives, but who's aware of it?
It's incredible. Billions of people encounter the phase, yet there is no widely known information about it.
Governments try to act as if they don't see what's going on. It's nuts. It warps our whole worldview. It would be the same as not noticing the moon in the sky or your own nose. It seemed like the phase had already turned my world upside down. But what was next? I could not have imagined that the most important discoveries were still to come.
From childhood on, we grow accustomed to books and films about parallel worlds of one sort or another.
But have you ever wondered why that's what we like?
Perhaps we're longing for something subconsciously. The answer to these questions comes to us in a large number of films, books, and paintings by authors who have clearly been touched by the phase.
There's one thing you should know about me.
The most well-known example of this is the Christopher Nolan film Inception, which is based on the premise that phase practitioners, under the control of main character Leonardo DiCaprio, are somehow able to steal information from other people's minds.
You're gonna kill me for sure.
Did you do it?
In Wes Craven's legendary horror movie Nightmare on Elm Street, a psychopath played by Robert Englund contemplates his murderous deeds in the world of the Fays.
Don't fall asleep.
Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure was real?
The Wachowski brothers' film The Matrix showcases the Fays as having been technologically mastered and having subsumed all of humanity, which the protagonist, played by Keanu Reeves, must save. How does one explain the Fays' penetration so deep into art and culture?
Could it be that the ability to spend part of our lives there is hardwired into us, and yet denied to us for a whole number of reasons?
At a subconscious level, people seem to be aware that they can enter the world where anything is possible. But do they ever accomplish these things in daily life? Well, not really. And as a result, they try to connect to it through fiction.
It doesn't happen just because. It's not just a practice that you can just either take up or not take up. It's our future.
Imagine a world in which people go about their business during the day, but come night remain awake while enjoying a second life in the world of the Fays. In it, all sensations are even more intense than that of the everyday world, and meanwhile no physical limitations exist. People in the world of the Fays can travel, obtain information, heal themselves, develop their creativity, and realize all of their desires, even those unattainable in the physical world. But how will this occur? The first such course of events is a natural evolution of consciousness. There's a reason why the phase is characterized by the activation of the frontal lobe of the brain during REM sleep. It's those parts of the brain that are responsible for man having become much more conscious and developed from other primates. There was a time when the human brain started developing consciousness and self-awareness. Over thousands of years, this phenomenon, one unique to mankind, developed and took over the waking state. Meanwhile, consciousness became more and more advanced and started consuming more and more of the brain's resources.
At one point, our cup overflowed. Consciousness simply ran out of room in the waking state, and it gradually began to expand into the nearest physiological state, REM sleep.
This led to a new hybrid state, the phase. The evolution of consciousness greatly accelerated in the 20th century. This process was affected by science, modern means of communication, television, computers, and the internet. The expansion of consciousness into REM sleep likewise picked up speed.
It's quite possible that we all would have spent a part of our lives in the phase, instead of just sleeping at night, if occurrences of the phase were not attributed to other phenomena. This pretty much arrested our development, and our task is to correct that mistake.
Is the phase already a natural inborn ability for all of us? What if people develop this gift starting in early childhood?
Children often talk about phase-like phenomena, but then often forget them as they grow up.
If a child doesn't learn to speak by age 6, then it'll never learn. Is not the same mistake being made with regards to the phase?
I have no doubt that we will live in two worlds in the future, thanks to the phase. It will come naturally and practically effortlessly. However, few people know that simple techniques already make this possible.
We've been talking about practitioners of out-of-body travel, lucid dreaming, and astral projection. All of these people really practice one and the same thing, the phase. Don Stallworthy works as a police officer and lives in the town of Ventura in Southern California.
The first time I had an out-of-body experience, I woke up, but I didn't move. And immediately I started to get this very strong, heavy sinking feeling, and everything started to go black, and I felt like I was sinking into my bed, and it was very scary. And then all of a sudden, I was above my bed floating in the air, and it was very cool because I could look down and see my wife in bed and myself.
He has a large, close-knit family, and spending time with them is his main pastime. However, he has another major hobby, the practice of the phase, which he's been engaged in for nearly 3 years.
I've had 59 experiences. Most of them are lucid dreams where I'm dreaming and I realize that I'm in the dream. A little bit less than half of those experiences have been out-of-body experiences where I actually have to do a technique to exit my body.
Dodd provides close support to the OOBE Research Center in its work with volunteers when conducting mass experiments.
But when I started getting better and better at it, I really got good at being able to create my environment by opening a door. And before I opened the door, I would picture in my head that there's going to be another world on the other side of that door. And whatever I picture when I open that door is there. It's amazing.
One of the reasons I learned about it was because my mom, she used to talk about astral projection.
Jaime Lindquist Munoz works as a massage therapist in Orange, California.
Eager to do that, I went and laid down in the bed at night and started meditating. Suddenly, when I felt the vibrations, I stay calm. And when I felt like I was separating from the body, I felt like I was dying. I felt like I was just ripping apart. So I felt like, oh no, I'm dying. I want to go back to my body. I don't want this.
Jaime has been practicing the phase in the form of lucid dreaming and out-of-body travel since he was 12 years old.
So I did it again, and then knowingly that what you said about the vibrations and also sleep paralysis that I was getting, then I just stayed relaxed when it started happening again. And when I detached myself from the body, I knew what was happening, and I started walking around the house.
At one point, his church forbade him from practicing the phase. However, Jaime later decided that there was no contradiction with his worldview, and so he continued on with his practice.
I see this world a lot better now because knowing that I'm here to experience something physical, and that I also able to experience something that is not physical, it makes me very happy to know that I have the best and I feel balanced.
The popularity of the phase grows with each passing day. If this keeps on continuing, the majority of the world's population will soon be taking it up.
These revolutionary changes to human consciousness are inevitable. The phase is the one thing that our civilization has not yet come to grips with.
In February 2012, the OOBE Research Center brought together volunteers in the United States and Russia for a new experiment. Researchers have always found it strange that there are no differences in terms of sensation between descriptions of typical near-death and phase experiences.
It's also a sensation of exit from the body, remaining conscious, flight, and so on.
The experiment resulted in 20 volunteers reproducing the flight through a tunnel and towards the light described in accounts of near-death experiences during clinical death. Experiment participant Philip Y.
I tried to separate from my body during a morning awakening, but was unsuccessful. I then began doing the techniques of rotating and observing images. A moment later, I found myself in a tunnel with a light at the end. The sensation of flight towards the light lasted for 5 to 7 seconds. It was accompanied by a pleasant feeling and full awareness of what was going on.
Experiment participant Anna I.
I was falling back asleep in the morning while imagining the tunnel. It appeared after a while and pulled me out of my body and right inside. The tunnel was narrow, not more than a yard wide. It looked something like a matrix or a crossword puzzle. I flew for quite a long time. There was a light at the end of the tunnel. Once I fell through it, I encountered my deceased cat. He took me into a room that was also flooded in light. My grandma and grandpa were there, and sitting in different corners for some reason. I said hello to them, but then rushed to get out of that empty room.
The experience obtained during the experiment were compared and contrasted with a database of 3,000 real near-death experiences. Were there any differences?
It turned out that in the near-death experiences we obtained, there wasn't a single detail described that was uncharacteristic of real-life visions during clinical death.
It's not only that we can live in two worlds, here and in the phase. It looks like our life is so tied to this phenomenon that that's exactly what it ends with. What's next? Who knows?
It is possible that the most important experiments are still to come. Meanwhile, we all need to recognize the facts that are already out there and open our eyes to the obvious. A revolution in consciousness is coming.
We can walk, see, hear, and exist in the phase, and thus live in two worlds. Don't let go of your chance to become a man or woman of the future right now. Try to enter the phase just once, and your life will never be the same. Nobody can stop it now.
As a child, I loved it when my mom read me fairy tales. As I got older, I got pretty upset after realizing that none of them could come true. But then it turned out that life was even more wondrous than I could imagine. I feel like I now understand what those fairy tales were really about.
How to enter the phase in one day? How will the phase make everyone a genius? Can you use the phase in your personal life? Can it cure cancer, AIDS, and other diseases? What happens to the disabled in the phase? Michael Raduga's research continued. All the sensational details on his incredible experiments and much, much more in the full version of the documentary film, The Phase.